Welcome everybody to Built on Faith Homestead. This is our Tiny House Talk Tuesday, right? As you can probably guess from the picture, we wanted to talk about some harsh realities today, right? Yeah. So I know I did one by myself a while back ago about how life's not always perfect, right? Sometimes with social media, not sometimes, almost all the time with social media, you have just the extremes that are shown. It's either like everything's all great and nothing ever bad happens, right? And we're the perfect couple and nothing ever is wrong.
Yeah.
Or you have the couple that just like complains about every little thing, right? I really felt moved and compelled, and when I asked Melissa about it, she agreed that we should do a video and talk about like we fight, not like so the picture like we're throwing punches,
Not
right?
like fist fight,
yeah, we don't throw punches at one another, although we would like to sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So if people say they don't once in a while, I'm kind of like, really? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we definitely get in a few disagreements.
Yeah.
So we are Christians, right? And at church, we talk about fellowship when we're visiting with other people, right? And I'll jokingly say sometimes we fellowship loudly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we elevate our fellowship to a loud level, right? We don't always get along, do we? No. We argue.
Yep.
We don't like to argue. It's not fun. It's not something we try to do, but we do. We argue about things. We argue about videos.
Yeah, funny enough, most of the time it's on our tiny house talks.
Almost every time it's on our tiny. It's never like subject. It's like, when are we going to do it? Because we have 3 kids and my wife homeschools and she goes to the grocery store and I pastor full time and I got all the obligations that come with that, plus taking care of the animals, and finding time for the 2 of us to sit down where the kids aren't screaming, yelling, and going crazy is a complicated thing to do.
It really is.
Yeah. It can be hard and it causes conflict between us. It does, right? Church, Sunday mornings. I'm gonna tell you this: if you're not
gotten better.
We've gotten a lot better. Some better. Almost feels like moving further away has helped.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Further for us to drive, and I think we fight less.
We have time to
because I think you understand that you got to be in a hurry in the morning.
I don't know.
I was trying to get something out of her. I was trying to get a rise out of her in the video. Because what better than to get a video about arguing and get an argument in the video? That would be way to go, right? Yeah. Sunday mornings are tough. If you're a pastoring family or you've ever really where you serve the Lord in that type of capacity, or you're singing or whatever, almost all of them that I know, they'll talk about if you get them honest, they'll start talking about how man, sometimes the drive to church can be terrible.
Yeah.
Because you end up getting in little spats and arguments and those kinds of things. And I've heard even from some of our congregation members, right, about getting in arguments. I won't tell who. And this actually happened to my grandpa also, because grandpa was telling me about it happened to him. And I wasn't even saying nothing. And he was just talking there one day. And he was talking about when he was pastoring a church, they noticed a family leaving the church about time to start church. And grandpa, being a concerned pastor, right, he reached out to him and was like, hey, everything okay, right? You guys didn't have any sort of emergency or anything, did you? And they said, no, we were just arguing and we didn't feel like we were fit to be in church, right?
Totally get it.
Totally get it. And we have seen that, right? We've seen that ourselves. We've seen families leave and then reach out to them and go like, yeah, no, we were just arguing and didn't feel like we were fit to be inside the church. We had to go sort that argument out, right? You can't preach mad at your spouse. I've tried. It doesn't work. Right? You got to get those things resolved. But we do. We argue and we don't see eye to eye. And I know I'm kind of twisted. I don't believe that conflict is necessarily a bad thing. I believe that if there's zero conflict, we're probably not growing as a couple.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not pushing me to do better, I'm not growing. And in that pushing, there's going to be conflict. And if I'm not pushing you to do better, then you're not growing, and there's going to be conflict in those types of pushing each other to get better. And so we do. We building the tiny house. We had arguments about how things were going to go. Melissa came down there one day, and we had just had a baby whenever we were building this, and so Melissa wasn't able to be on site very often, right? So when she was on site, I would try to get all the information I could out of her, kind of what she wanted and how she wanted to do things as well. And then I would talk to her of an evening and stuff and hey, this is my plan. Do you like this? but we got in an argument kind of centered around plugins, right? And I was like, this is all the plugins we need in this room. And she was wanting to know where to plug in a Scentsy, one of them smell good things, right? and we got in a little debate, and I told her, you plug it in wherever you want to, I don't care, right? And then we got into a pretty heated argument, right? And of course, there was no air conditioning. It's like 100 degrees in the tiny house, and we were arguing about.
Which was funny because I ended up not even using the Scentsy, and
we totally
we ended up having to rearrange the room the Scentsy was going to be in, so it didn't even matter.
Yeah, it didn't even matter. But we did. We got pretty heated over something as silly as, and I was like, it's a tiny house. It's right. We got plug-ins. We got places to plug. Just pick a spot. I don't care, right? And Melissa was like, yeah, but it's not going to work here. And I'm like, I don't care. It's entirely one Scentsy will make the whole house smell good, right? Like, that was our little debate, and I was being a bullheaded man, and she was being a woman and wanting to take care of the womanly things of the house. Make sure I was like, shelter, food, cover, right? Like, and Melissa was like, yeah, and it's going to smell good too, right? And we did, man. We got in an argument about it. And so, they're just those things, right? And we do. We get in arguments too. And we it's not all doom and, like, we don't argue all the time by any stretch of the imagination. And the longer we're married, probably the easier and better it's getting, for sure. But we do sometimes. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye. Right? And don't tell my wife this, but sometimes I'm wrong and she's right. And don't tell her I said that, though. And every once in a while, on a good day, every once in a great long while, I'm right about something.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, what was that? Did you
very hard for me to do.
Did you just say I was? Let me hear that one more time. Let me make sure I heard that correctly. No, I'm just playing, guys. I wonder why we argue, right? I wonder why. Yeah. And things aren't always perfect, right? We mess things up. I think about my wife knitting and crocheting. I know she made a swipe at it years ago and got mad and let it down and said, I'm never doing this again. This is a pain in the hind end. And now she spends all of her spare time either learning to play the mandolin or knitting, one of the two, right? What little bit of spare time she has, that's what she does with it. And if you look around our tiny house very closely, you will find all kinds of mistakes, right? Of course, I did most of the work. Melissa did a lot of the work. Like, we know where the mistakes are, so we can point them out quick, fast, in a hurry. But I still got a piece of trim I never have put up. That, I don't even. I didn't
even notice it.
Yeah, we were in the house like 3 weeks, and I was sitting in the living room one day, and I was looking up at the wall, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a piece of trim that's not even there. And I got tickled about it. Our animals die sometimes. Sometimes we lose a set of baby rabbits, or we lose a chicken, or what have you.
Sometimes, but that's how you learn.
It is.
And sometimes it's our fault.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's for an unknown reason.
And sometimes you don't shut the coop door at night. And you get home and you're tired and you're wore out, and you think to yourself when you get inside, I should have shut that coop door. And you're like, it'll probably be fine for a night. And you go out there and there's 5 dead chickens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, things happen. They do. And the whole point of doing this video, though, was we wanted to make sure that we're not putting forth an image of, like, everything's all hunky-dory and perfect all the time. Yeah. No. And we have said, right? So, like, we're making sourdough bread all the time now, right? We're not buying store-bought bread. We feel more comfortable as we do those things. However, those types of things still cause us conflict from time to time because they're hard. It's harder work, right? You don't just, like, we have to think about our bread now and what day are we going to make bread, make sure that we have bread for sandwiches.
What you have going on so you can have time to do it.
Right. And sometimes it's just like, I just want to go back to doing things the other way. It is
hard. It's worth it. So today I went to the grocery store.
Oh, man. I don't want to talk about it.
And I got what we needed, and I had to get, honey over by the bread. And I thought to myself, I don't need to go get bread. This feels really good. And it really did. It felt good that I didn't have to go get the bread. Yeah. Which this is the first time I'm 28 years old, and this is the first time that I've never had to buy bread.
Yeah. Yeah, and we haven't bought bread for
at least a month or
probably
two.
A month now anyway, yeah. And that's just one of our baby steps. But that kind of stuff, like, we still argue about it, and it's still like, how far are we going to go, and we still debate that, and some things I want to do, you don't want to do, and some things you want to do, I'm like, no, let's not mess with that, right? And sometimes it takes, like, breaking away and thinking about it a little while to come to an understanding of, like, hey, this probably would be a good thing, or what have you. So right now we're watching our daughter, because she already got choked once, and she just jammed her mouth full of trail mix again. And she looks as though she's going to try to get choked again.
You okay?
Chew it up, sissy. Yeah. Kids. So our kids argue with each other. Well, the two girls do. Bo he's too young. He just smiles all the time. He does pull their hair every once in a while.
Yeah.
But they fight, right? Leah.
They fight a lot.
Yeah. Sometimes it's aggravating.
Sometimes one of them tries to punch the other one.
Yeah, sometimes they actually do fight. Siblings, that's what they do.
Yeah. Sometimes the kids cause us to fight.
Yeah, sometimes
things are more, you have kids, it's more tense, it's more, hurry up, come on, get it done, kind of thing. And
yeah.
Sometimes you gotta slow down when you need to, and it's hard.
It is.
It's hard to raise kids. And everybody that I've talked to that's had kids, you do fight more when you have kids around.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of life that helps us, whoever, grow closer together in this part of our life.
Yes.
Because one day our kids won't always be here. And we'll have that to look back on, and that trust and that bond that we've created from raising kids together. And we'll be stronger when we're 70 years old, Right. And it's just me and him.
Yeah, and you have to take care of me like I'm a kid. No.
We'll see how it goes.
But it does, right? And so I don't want to, and I agree with you, right? I don't want to say necessarily like the kids, but they do cause some conflict. But it's more, us not understanding each other and our own mindsets and thought processes. A lot of the conflict between me and my wife, like involving the kids, is just not understanding me and my wife, not understanding each other, right? And not understanding where some of those lines even are. Even though we raise kids, like the only kids I've ever raised has been with you, right? And it's the only kids I have, right? And we agree on ways to discipline and all those types of things. But there are things that, as a dad, I look at and go, look, that's not a big deal, right? Let's just roll on past that. That you think's a big deal, and then things I think's a big deal, sometimes you don't, right? And that still happens with us, and we still argue about, like, what do we get onto them for? What severity? Do they get in trouble for A, B, and C? And is C really a big deal to all of us, or right? All those kinds of things. And some things I didn't think were a big deal, I'm learning really probably are a bigger deal. And I'd say probably the other way is true too.
And that'll change when they get bigger.
Yes, absolutely. We argue about gardening and how much to plant and whether or not we can actually handle it. So I'm a go-getter type that thinks that you can just conquer the world. And
he would plant every vegetable and fruit known to man.
Yes.
He would.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm like, I can't do all of it, like with canning and everything. Like, I can't.
And homeschool and take care of the kids and cook dinner and keep the house.
It gets rough sometimes. And so we run into some conflict. We both work very hard. But we do have things of that, like that we argue about or bicker about.
So anybody that knows me really well knows that I can put way too much on my plate.
He does.
Right? And some people are watching this, like possibly my former boss, and going, yeah, he does, right? He's bad about that. It's a quality trait that I know I struggle with, but I don't always know how to resolve it.
There's some of it I think that's good.
It is, right? So,
but there's some of it that I'm like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
We've been running everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we get so run down before We have.
Yeah.
Especially like in revivals and stuff, we've been so run down that like we can't move, you know.
And then we fight because we're tired.
And then we fight because we're exhausted. And it's just like this never-ending
cycle of stuff, right? So I call it the revival. When we're in revival, just so you know, churches, anybody that ever calls us to uphold revival, me and my wife's going to fight during that revival at some point in time, more than likely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get, at least, and not just your everyday little scuffles, right, or whatever you want to call it, every other day scuffles or whatever. Like, we're going to have one pretty good argument, probably, where, like, I'll be red-faced and you'll be red-faced and we'll be agitated. I call it the revival fight. Like, we're going to have a revival. And usually, really, all it is, I know it's Satan attacking us. I get that. But mostly it goes to, we're just tired and wore out. And our patience with each other is wore thin. And, yeah, we're just mad at one another over something silly, usually. It doesn't amount to anything. Most of the time.
And that's another thing, like, with, you know, Pastor's wife, you know, there's been times couples have just been so mad, like, you know what I mean, at church or whatever.
Yeah.
We're human too. We have come to church so mad that I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Let's get real, guys. Like, there's been times where I'm like, no.
Yeah. So I'm pretty convinced.
You literally have to. That is one thing I believe in. We have to. There's been times when I have not, but you have to come to church prepared to serve Him. You have to.
Quit trying to steal his bottle.
You have to put away the things of this world. That sometimes means fights with Him, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But that's just the honest truth. I feel like, you know, I didn't think of that several years ago, but since I've grown in Christ, like I know, and being your wife, we have to learn to put each other's fights, things.
Because there's a grander goal.
To the side, because there is a grander goal, and there's lots of things going on. There's things people are dealing with. There's things spiritually, physically, mentally that you have to help fight, and you have to come to church ready to fight. Yeah. Ready to serve. In a good way. Yeah. Yeah, fighting a good way. Yeah, not like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Spiritually, get down. Right, bended knee type fighting. And there is. Like, we have to move past our own pettiness sometimes, right? And just serve the... I hate to say our own pettiness. It sounds like I'm making light of our arguments. But at the end of the day, truthfully, that's kind of what it is. They are petty. Yeah, most of the time. A lot of times it's... we're not 15 minutes early and I'm mad because we're only 5 minutes early instead of 15 minutes early. Yeah. Right? Something like that. And we get in that argument and we have to learn to set... You're right. And we have to learn to set that aside because there's bigger things. One of the things I have to pray a lot at church... and during church even, is like, don't let my own sinfulness be held against these people, right? So that they will be able to get what they need out of this service. Yeah. Even though in my flesh I have probably failed, even on the way to church, I have failed in arguing with my wife and saying things I shouldn't have said or whatever. Please don't hold that against these people. Right now I'm going to cry. But I know, right? I pray that a lot because I don't want to let myself hinder a church service or something that people may need out of the Lord. No. It can be hard. It can be sometimes. Hard. Yeah. And that go-get-a type attitude that I have that puts way too much, like I said, like Melissa was saying, I can wear everybody out and I don't realize I'm doing it. And I don't realize how grumpy even maybe I'm getting, even in that, because it's just how I do things, and you just don't think about it. And you cause bigger issues sometimes than what we should, for sure. Yeah, I can be bad about that. Yeah. And there's, like, if we are fighting, there's lots of times, you know, before he may go up there to start the service and whatnot, that, you know, I either have him come over to me, or he comes to me and kisses me on the forehead, or I give him a hug, or whatever, to know. That's kind of our way of knowing, like, you know, it's okay, and we're going to put this aside and move on.
Yeah.
For God, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have to. We have to.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to say before we end this video is something that I want newlyweds to remember, and oldly weds, people who've been married a long time even, to remember, and something that we have to remind ourselves of, is even though we do argue, and we don't get along sometimes, and we don't see eye to eye, we have to, I don't know what's going on over here. Might be brother and sister arguing right now. No, he's fine, baby doll. That is your milk. We are not, Melissa and I, right? We need to remind ourselves that we are on the same team, right? So even in a argument with Melissa, right, I try to remind her, and I'm bad at it, right? But I try to remind her, like, if I disagree with you about something, a big reason why I might be disagreeing is I'm trying to do what I feel is best for you, and I don't want you to think that I'm just like a fun crusher or whatever, right? Like, I'm on your side, and I want to improve your life.
Yeah.
Right? And in arguments, we have to remember sometimes that our spouse is not our enemy.
Yeah.
Or shouldn't be our enemy. And if you are your spouse's enemy, then you got some praying to do about not being your spouse's enemy.
Because the devil is going to tell you that he is your enemy.
Yeah.
You know, why?
Or she.
Or she. Yeah. I can speak for women, I guess, but, you know, at least for myself, you know, the devil has spoke to my head and said, you know, he's against you. He's not agreeing with you. He doesn't see it your way. But that's Satan trying to make him your enemy, your spouse your enemy. And you have to remind yourself that, you know, he loves me. He's not against me, you know.
So I think back to one fight in particular, and we can edit this part out if you want to, and it's fine. But we were leaving church on a Sunday night, and we hadn't been married all that awful. I think we had Luella, maybe. And our old house, we had to drive kind of through the edge of town to get home from church. And Melissa wanted to stop and get a cheeseburger. And who doesn't like a good Sunday night fast food, greasy, cheesy cheeseburger after church, right? And she wanted to stop and get a cheeseburger. And just truth be told, like, we had maybe the finances to pay for the cheeseburger, but it wasn't like we had a lot of extra finances. It was probably much wiser not to pay to go get that cheeseburger, right? And I said, no, we really can't this tonight, you know? And Satan, right, speaking in Melissa's ear, had convinced her, like, I just didn't want her to eat a cheeseburger. Like, I was just trying to keep you from enjoying a cheeseburger after church. And finally, I remember in that argument saying, no, like, you don't understand, I want a cheeseburger too, right? I just don't think it's wise for us to spend the money right now on those types of things, right? Melissa, trying to help me with my own struggles and trials, and she'll try to lift me up, right? And like, sometimes I don't want any part of it. I just want to be in my own little misery bubble every once in a while, right? And I have to remember, like, she is trying to help me, like.
There has been times, even after, like, church and stuff,
Oh,
he's
man.
just angry or whatever,
If it's been
and
a
how
bad
things
service.
went, you know.
Yeah.
And I try to be the good supporting pastor's wife, and he's just, like, wanting no part of it. Is just still angry, and I'm like, why do I even bother? I'm like, I'm just not going to say anything, because it never helps. No, it does.
But it does help.
It just,
but in the
he
moment,
just can't see through the goggles he's looking at right in that moment. And I have gotten to where in our marriage, I have understood that I have to give him grace, because I know he's still dealing with that. So that's partly on me too.
So that probably should be the next transition in this conversation, right? Is, and we've said it before, I think, in videos, but like, as a couple, you both have to move from your particular spot, right? So one of the things, like, learning to show appreciation for one another, because you accept appreciation one way, and I may show it a different way, and you don't think I appreciate you, but I do. I'm just putting all of my showing that in the wrong spot, and it's like we're speaking two different languages almost to one another, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense in this video. Me and Melissa talked about it a lot, so she understands what I'm already saying. But learning for both of you to move from your position, just as she was saying, right? Like, me having to learn, like, she is just trying to lift me up. Like, I need to move from my spot and allow her to do that. And she has moved from her spot and said, listen, I'm going to give him more grace than I would have when we first got married, because I know where his mindset is now, right? Same way with the whole cheeseburger conversation is, right? Both of us moving from that spot and saying, hey,
And no matter the cheeseburger thing, no matter how bad I may want that, I have to move in a way to know that he's trying to help us with our finances, and I have to be understanding in my own head of, we just can't this week,
right,
you know, or whatever, and it's okay. He's trying to help us, you know, and you know, it's not the end of the world.
And I have to move, and I've had to move from the spot. Like, guys, and this isn't like me trying to toot my own horn or anything. If it were up to me, like, I would almost never eat out.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, almost never. Right? I get a craving occasionally, like for, you know, Chinese or usually Chinese. Spoiler alert, I hear Chin's Super Buffet in Lebanon's opening back up. Right? Speaking of almost never, but definitely then for sure, right? But I'm trying to change the subject. Let's talk about something fun, like eating a massive amount of Chinese food. No, but learning that, like, that cheeseburger is more than sustenance. It's more than, like, I want my belly full for you, right? It's an experience, and it's family time, and it's my husband giving me that appreciation that I desire, which means that sometimes I have to look at it and go, let's get the cheeseburger. Maybe that $30 by the time everybody gets their food, right? Everybody gets food and drinks and all that good stuff, is way more than $30 of cheeseburger that to me is like, it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay.
And I get your side too.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Because it means much more to you than that.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it does. So I've had to move a little bit.
But I get your side too.
Are we about to get an argument about...
No, I'm just telling you, like, I understand. Like,
yeah.
And I've gotten where, like I said, I had to understand that and know that, like, it's not that big of a deal.
No, don't do that. I know you guys can't see, but off camera, Leah just tried to, like, WF style kick Bo out of the high chair here. Quit moving him around, girls. All right.
But I've had to...
Cheerios.
I've had to understand that eating out's not that big of a deal. And so it kind of has to go both ways.
It does. Both of us have had to move from our goalpost. Right? Both of us have had to move, for sure.
And we have had some nasty drag-out fights because we have dug our hole in the ground.
Not moving.
And we are both stubborn. Yes, I admitted it. I admitted it.
Oh, you guys are getting a first-time glimpse into something.
What? We're both stubborn.
I'm gonna have to change my argument now. So, backdrop, okay? I usually tell Melissa that we're both stubborn. The only difference is I admit mine, and she just admitted hers. So I'm gonna have to find a new.
It's going to be on YouTube, so it's on there forever. No,
all 30
we
people.
have had to. We have both dug our poles in the ground and said, "No, I'm not moving." And my husband's very stubborn. I'm stubborn. Sometimes in different things than he is. And not gonna lie, so I've never met a more stubborn person in my whole life. Like, this is true.
Now, we know some preachers that'll give me a run for the money.
Yeah.
One in particular. I won't mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him or his family.
You know who you are, though.
That's right.
We love you guys. But there has been times when I feel like sometimes you have made me more stubborn. Like,
I prefer to use the word determined.
Like, I'm sure you do. Like, because he's been stubborn about things, like, I just want to go hard too at him and be like, no, I'm standing my ground. And I think that has been, like, for real.
Yeah.
But I've also gotten more stubborn in good things because of him. I feel like.
So that would be determined, right? So
yeah,
determination's a nice word to say stubborn sometimes. But I would use determined in ways of, like, positive attributes of, like, just not giving up or not quitting when you shouldn't.
Yeah. So
That's what I'm
I feel
gonna
like
go
your
with.
stubbornness has brought me good, too.
Thank you. Love you. So, and that's another thing, is our spouses, our differences, Melissa and I's differences, shouldn't, although they do divide us sometimes, we should use them to grow.
Yeah.
Right? We shouldn't just try to fix our spouse into somebody that we want them to be. We need to let them be who the Lord wants them to be first and foremost, and we should help guide them into where the Lord wants them. But also then let their things that are maybe different than ours help us grow. So I believe men and women are supposed to work together, and where I fail, you can fill those gaps, right? And where you have struggles, I can fill those gaps. Like, I believe that's what we're meant to do as husband and wife. And so I always use electricity for the comparison, right? Because I understand it, and I probably should find something that, and most of you probably do too, I guess. But if you cross your wires in the wrong place, like, you'll burn the house down. But if you hook your wires up right to a light switch, you turn the light on, you got this beautiful light where you can work and see and do things and all that good stuff, right? And that's kind of how I think of our differences is when our wires aren't crossed and we've got it hooked up to the Lord, right, the right way, then we create beautiful light, right, to the world of God's power, strength, and mercy.
Well, it's funny how God does that in a marriage or in a relationship. If that's, the one that you're meant to be with.
Yes.
His things will help you with things that you're not, that you fail at. And my things help him at things that he fails at.
Yes. So our differences, they do. They help each other out. They really, really do.
Yeah.
So I enjoy life a lot more now by learning from Melissa to enjoy things in life that I probably never would have enjoyed before.
And I've learned to not dwell on certain things and if, just to move on. And go when I need to go, instead of being stuck. But God just has a magical way of putting two people together and making them work.
He does.
And helping each other. I think that's a really great thing.
I do too.
So, not only do we fight, but our fights help us.
Yeah.
Our faults help us. Help each other.
Our conflicts make us stronger.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love you.
Love you.
Guys, thank you guys for watching. Please understand. Hopefully through this video you get it. Like, we are not peaches and cream all the time.
No.
Not even a little bit. We love you guys.
Love you.
We are at 49 subscribers I seen last time. We're one away. One away from 50. Help us out, guys.
Yes.
Help us out. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for your support, for sharing our videos, subscribing, and all those things. Don't forget to check us out on Leaving Egypt Bible Study page and Leaving Egypt on Rumble as well, where we put all of our videos on.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you guys. We'll catch you next time.